going on, MMA fans? Back to do my UFC 124 review. Wow. Good night of fights. Going in, this was one of those cards where when you looked at it, you were like, is it really going to be, is it really going to turn out to be a good card, or are we going to have some, some good fights based on the matchups? And, you generally, with those kind of cards, you generally get a good surprise. Sometimes you don't. So what I'm doing right now, just give me a second, I'm bringing up, I was making a choice between Junkie and Sherdog of what I was going to use to just remind myself of some of the play-by-play. Alright, so let's go over the first fight, work our way from the bottom up to the top. Thiago Alves versus John Howard. Really, there's not much to say about this fight other than what was said initially in the predictions video. Alves is the more technical striker. He was able to use his leg kicks. He threw Howard's timing off in the pocket, and he was quicker to the punch and had better counter striking all around. This was one of Alves' better performances. I'm not talking about in just his striking and takedowns in general, which he did mix that in pretty well in this fight, but this was the best looking performance as far as his cardio was concerned and as far as his gas tank and his weight, how he looked. Everything looked to be in place. I don't know if, Dolce has done, really that well with him, and it was just, maybe this is just a one and done type of thing, and it doesn't continue with his weight and how he's looking. But if this is the Thiago Alves that we're going to start seeing from now on, that can make 171 pounds every time and come in like this and then, drop that extra pound if he gets in a title fight, this is a Thiago Alves that everyone in the division needs to look out for, because after round 3, a round where even if he has been dictating the pace in other fights, he's been gassed in the past, and he was not in this fight. So congratulations to Alves. Made his weight, came in, handled his business against John Howard, and again, like I said, he was the better fighter, the more technical striker, had better counters in this fight. And for John Howard, go back to the drawing board, try to improve where you made some mistakes in this fight, such as, trying to just go for the knockout. You've got to mix your striking in against a guy that's a high-level striker in the food chain like Alves. You cannot just, throw one shot here and there to try to land a KO. It's just not going to happen. All right, on to the next fight, Mac Danzig versus Joe Stevenson. Mac Danzig. Oh, by the way, Thiago Alves beats John Howard via unanimous decision, 30-27, all the way across by all the judges. Mac Danzig versus Joe Stevenson. Wow. Left hook of, I don't even know what to call it. Stevenson was doing what he's done in other fights, which it kind of surprised me. You would think coming in with this type of fight where you're a little bit smaller, but not the smaller guy in general, like size-wise, in certain situations like the clinch. I would have thought that Stevenson would have pop, clinch, pop, look for the takedown. No, it was pop, I'm going to try to stand with you. And Stevenson overcompensated, jumped in with a left hook, which he likes to do against opponents, and Mac Danzig said, I've seen this before, I know what to do, and wha-bam. I mean, it was just immediate, like, gut instinct reaction. I mean, when Stevenson jumped forward, he hadn't even fully started delivering the left hook, and Danzig's left counter was already in motion. I mean, it was coming. He was already ready for it. And Stevenson's motion moving forward, and Danzig's hook coming this way. And that's what was just nasty about this knockout, is Stevenson was coming forward and Danzig was moving backwards, and he dropped him. Mac Danzig, props. You are going to now get to stay in the UFC. No cut for you. For Joe Stevenson, he'd been looking pretty good in his last couple fights, and he kind of goes back to doing what he's done in the past. That's not going to cut it. For Stevenson, you're going to have to do like you did before. Try to retool. Try to find a way to mix your striking in with your clinching and your wrestling. That's where you are the strongest. Especially against guys where they may have the more technical striking. You cannot try to get into exchanges with them. It's just not going to happen. You know, we all love Joe Stevenson, but we got to face the facts. Mac Danzig, he is going to stay in the UFC. He will not get cut, so congratulations to him, and he probably got KO of the night. All right, on to the next fight. Jim Miller versus Charles Oliveira. Forget everything that I said in the predictions video. Jim Miller was like, you know what? I made the comments that I made before this fight. I said that, you know, this guy's got a lower belt rank than I do, and I don't want to go to the ground with this guy because I will probably get subbed even though I am a black belt. Jim Miller was like, forget all that, forget that I said that, is able to grab a beautiful, it was at first it was a toe hold, then to a knee bar. Like if you watch the progression of the submission, Miller kind of left his leg out there. Me and Karsten were talking about this. We were on Skype last night. Karsten said that he didn't think that he did this. The way that it looked to me, and the way Karsten had explained it, no, you generally do not want to leave your leg out to bait someone to try to grab it, because then they'll grab your leg, and by the time you've already compensated for that, you are probably going to get, you know, a heel hook or a knee bar. That aside, with that in mind, Jim Miller had left his leg out, kind of looked at it. Charles Oliveira kind of went for it, and immediately, within a split second, Jim Miller was like, you're going for my knee? Try to go for it. Bam, you left yourself open, and immediately went down for the toe hold. Got it in deep. Oliveira, at the initial point of the submission, could have gotten out of it, but as soon as Miller locked it all the way around with his legs tight around up near the calf muscle, that's it. You cannot, it's not going to happen. You're not getting out. Oliveira tried to punch a couple times and went, oh, no. And that was it. That was it for Oliveira. So congratulations to Jim Miller. Very, very impressive win, especially, you know, against a guy that many would consider as a better grappler than him in the BJJ food chain. So big feather in his cap. He's asking for a title shot. I don't know if that's what's going to happen yet. However, he's definitely brought the attention not only to the UFC but MMA fans, and he probably will at least get you know, one of those guys in the upper echelon in his next fight to try to see where he is at 155. So congratulations to him. For Charles Oliveira, he'll be back. You know, he's one of the better guys in that division as far as striking and jiu-jitsu. You know, his striking is very, very, I'd say it's underrated. However, I thought in this fight that Miller could be a little bit more technical with his boxing and could keep this fight standing. But regardless of that, Jim Miller did not do that. Charles Oliveira, you know, good Muay Thai, good jiu-jitsu. He'll be back. You know, maybe put a little bit more muscle mass on just to kind of beef yourself up a little bit. If not, you know, he's got a very good frame. I'm not saying that he needs to do this yet, so, you know, don't jump at me necessarily. But, you know, he does have a good frame to possibly move down to 145 pounds should he not do well at 155. Sean McCorkle versus Stefan Struve. These two guys were just on all kinds of trash talk. Twitter was, I'm sure, in a couple situations, possibly close to having technical difficulties with as much as Sean McCorkle was putting up, and then related to what Stefan Struve was kind of firing back. Regardless of all that, you know, Sean McCorkle comes in, gets a takedown, starts going for a Kimura and half guard, almost like a key lock behind the back, and doesn't get it. Struve gets a beautiful sweep to the top position and mount, starts firing away punches, and McCorkle's forced to turtle up and does not improve position, and the ref steps in, and that is it. So Stefan Struve, you know, an impressive win. This was a fight where many thought he should win this. He's got, you know, the more skills as far as possibly with his technical striking. Mix that in with his bottom game, with his jiu-jitsu, and his submission defense that he has done a pretty good job with. He showed those bright spots in this fight. He's continuing to show that he's getting better. He needs to get a new guy, possibly one of the middle guys in the division to kind of see where he's at. Maybe give him one of the lower guys in the food chain in the top echelon to see where he's at. For Sean McCorkle, he'll be back. The biggest thing I will say with him is his gas tank. As soon as he got mounted in the first round, after trying to put all of his power into that Kimura from half guard, he looked gassed. I would think, to try to work on his gas tank is one of the things he needs to work on. Two, look at where you made mistakes in this fight, improve, and try to come back. So congratulations to Struve. Did look impressive in this fight. Now let's move on to the main event. And when I say what I'm about to say, we can go back to other fights and see a similar type of situation. However, you will not see as many as what I'm going to talk about. BJ Penn, Sean Shirk, Kenny Florian, Takanori Gomi, jabs that dictated a fight and helped the other opponent, jabs that dictated the fight that nullified their opponent to help them win. However, those have now been put to the bottom of the list, and now we add a new one, as in the words of Joe Rogan, the most jabs ever in a mixed martial arts fight. I would agree so. George St. Pierre did what many thought would not be done in this fight. Many thought that George St. Pierre would 1-2 clinch, 1-2 takedown. I even did. He would not want to try to get into any type of exchanges with Koscheck because of the threat of getting either, taken down possibly, or getting, caught with that right straight of death that Koscheck does possess. St. Pierre said, no, I've gone out, I've, talked to Freddie Roach, I've improved my boxing, my striking is there, I need to try to mix it up and not be one-dimensional, and that is what he did in this fight. All of St. Pierre's tools were shown in this fight. The wrestling, the positional control, the jab, the boxing. We really haven't seen that, not only out of St. Pierre, but we haven't seen the jab dictate a fight so much like this in mixed martial arts, and it's starting to show some bright spots, if you will, that, mixed martial arts is still evolving, which is a good thing. But St. Pierre put on a clinic. I mean, an absolute clinic when you consider the fact that 50-some-odd% of his strikes were landed by a jab. Josh Koscheck's eye looked like a tangerine. It was huge. By the 4th or 5th round, St. Pierre had busted it up so bad that it was even bleeding within where the swelling was at. It was coming out. St. Pierre was able to control, other than the first round where Koscheck got him down. And he did get some bright spots against St. Pierre in some of the other rounds. But George St. Pierre was able to control the distance. He was able to control the striking. And when he felt that he had a prime opportunity to clinch or get a takedown, he went for that and mixed it in and just put on an absolute clinic in this fight. Koscheck had no answer for any round in regards to the jab. If I would have been in his corner, I'd been like, listen, he's not taking you down right now. Get your hands up. Get your hands up. Because you are getting tore up with this jab. And he didn't do that. He was more afraid of getting taken down. Karsten said this in his video, and he was absolutely right. He was more afraid of getting taken down than he was of actually putting his guard up and blocking the jab. And that's why he's got why he's got a nasty eye that he's going to be looking at this morning, which would be 11 some odd my time, Eastern time, that he's going to be looking at in the mirror. So, regardless of that, George St. Pierre put it all together. Who's he going to fight next? They're probably going to give him Jake Shields. Is that the fight that he needs to have? I don't know. I know that if he goes and fights Anderson Silva, in my personal opinion, that's not going to fare well for him. I'm just saying. We can talk about that in a different video. I've talked about that in the past. Even with St. Pierre looking like he is right now, I don't think that's a good fight for him. However, Koscheck, he will be back. Add some more things to your arsenal. He's definitely one of the brighter spots in the division, and if St. Pierre ends up moving up to 185 and never comes back down, that's the guy that you need to look out for. But in all, this was a good event, good night of fights. St. Pierre regains his title, 50, what was the scores, 50-45 all the way across to unanimous decision. So leave some comments, constructive, negative, positive. I'll be back to do some videos here in the next week. And you guys, take it easy.